been a big 24 hours for this girl and another big day tomorrow, and by that I just mean that I'm like going places instead of going exclusively from my flat to my studio every day. Last night I was at a great workshop in Hackney that was done by Maya Mann, who is an artist who I've been obsessed with for years. I'll link some of her stuff down below, but she is so cool and does a lot of stuff that's based on like the internet and just exploring our identity formation on the internet. So super cool stuff. And I saw that she's from the States, but she was in London doing a workshop. Grace and I got tickets, and the workshop was creating a website for your crush. Since she does a lot of like coding and internet stuff, she taught like the basics of HTML coding, and we all made these like Y2K style websites just using very basic like text and colors and pictures and code. And very inspiring, not only because like I didn't even realize that coding your own websites was like an accessible, free, like relatively easy, I mean, we learned how to do it in like an hour and a half, kind of hobby to have. Particularly what I appreciated about her approach to this was she had an article for us to read, which I'll link down below because it was so cool, that was talking about DIY websites and how a lot of people forget that like we are the creators of the internet and we can put things on the internet and it can be scrappy and it can be handmade and it can be like straight from the heart. It basically compared like basic HTML coding to making zines and saying like self-publishing is so important and so cool. And a lot of times when we say like we're on the internet or we want to get off the internet or we're tired of the internet or we're like the internet's making us sick or whatever, what we're talking about is social media sites, and particularly like the big three social media sites like Instagram and TikTok and Facebook and whatever. We forget that like that's not all the internet. Like there is so much on the internet. There are so many different communities and blogs and like content pieces that you can engage with that are not on social media sites, that don't involve some of the things that are often upsetting about those social media sites. And so it was kind of like, let's bring it back to basics. I want to see people go offline, as in like not on social media, but be online in the way that they're just like sending DIY self-coded websites back and forth and being like, these are all my favorites right now, like here's a little website about it, or hey, like do you want to come to a dinner party, here's like a website about everything you need to know. It's just very inspiring, and I'm like less than 12 hours out and just thinking about all the different like things that I'm gonna do now that I know HTML and CSS and I'm like a coder girl. So this morning I had a bit of a new experience. I was invited to a press view of the Firle Bays exhibition at the South London Gallery. Basically what a press view is they invite members of the press to come see an exhibition before it's open, and the idea is that they want to create some buzz around it, they want people to see it and kind of get an idea of what it's about so they can write reviews, write articles, and like get people excited to go see it when it opens. And I'd never been invited to one before, which is very cool. So I guess like Material Girls is a press outlet now. That's what I wrote at least on my little like, what outlet are you here with? It was super cool. And there are some textiles in the exhibition. So in this little booklet, there's a picture here, but that is textile like all across the ceiling. And there was, I haven't been into the gallery to know if it's like all light on top, but the effect that it was giving was that like the whole roof was a skylight and there were holes in the textiles that were letting light in through like different, you know, areas kind of randomly. They have this gallery space, and then across the way they have a fire station that was donated to them to be converted into like separate galleries. So they had some smaller exhibitions and like paintings over there as well. The curators walked around with us to give a tour and talk about like what the artist was exploring and what the exhibition is about. I was feeling very informed, but I was not like playing the part. These were like journalists that were there, right? And so people were like taking notes and taking videos for like minutes long of like what these people were saying, and I was just kind of like taking video clips and hanging out. But I feel like I understand better if I could go back again, like what the vibe of these things are. And it was definitely cool to get a first look at the exhibition, and I will be doing what I can as a shit poster to encourage people to go see it because it was very cool. So if you're in London, South London Gallery, it's on until the 8th of September. Go check it out. Tomorrow morning, I'm going to an event with the brand Espresso, which does makeup stuff. I was at an event for them a few months ago where they launched a blush, and I'd never heard of them before that, but I'm hooked now. Like the blush is amazing. And they're coming out with an SPF tomorrow. So they're doing a pop-up coffee shop where you can come get espresso and like try out the new SPF, which I'm very excited for because I can never get enough of SPF. I think I have like 5 bottles going right now. And then tomorrow night is a Material Girls event. We're gonna be hosting a table at the Queer Street Party for Strapped, which is a lesbian club night, but they're doing a street fair of all queer vendors. So it's a bunch of queer crafters who are gonna be selling the stuff that they make, and they invited Material Girls to come be there. And I'm really excited because I've never done any sort of like market before. I know that a lot of fiber artists do sell things that they make at markets, but I don't really make like ready-made things to sell. So it's not something I'm super like tapped into, but I already knew about this club night. Like Grace and I go to it sometimes and like it. So I thought what better time to try than hanging out with a bunch of lesbians, right? So we've been thinking about what kind of stuff we can do to like bring the vibe, because I'll have like magazines to sell. I showed you, I think in the last video or something, the tattoos, like temporary tattoos that I had made that are Material Girls themed. We're going to be decorating lighters as well. So just kind of thinking of like fun ways to keep the vibe up and also encourage people to get more involved with Material Girls, like have a little accessible craft at the table that gets them excited to maybe come to a more involved craft workshop. So what I have to do today is make signs for that so that the table looks nice and it explains, you know, the prices of everything and how you can get involved with Material Girls. So I'm gonna make that. I'm gonna go to my local library and print it out and get those all ready to go for tomorrow. Good morning. It's going to be another busy weekend, and yesterday was Friday and it was a very exciting day. So it started out at an event with Wool and the Gang. So they were celebrating some new yarns that they're going to be launching, and they sent me home with a little bag. So I'm going to show you what came inside of it. But first of all, look how cute this is. It's a bunch of their yarns, including some of the new ones, all lined up. The first thing they're going to be launching in the like late summer, early fall time is this Alpacino Merino, but it's in mixed colorways. So Alpacino Merino is my favorite Wool and the Gang yarn. It's very soft and squishy and you can wash it. I made a red sweater last year that became just my most worn piece of the winter, and that's an Alpacino Merino. So I was very excited to see this, and they have it in a bunch of cute colorways. So this is Heritage Mix, which is kind of like green on green, and they have other versions that are pink, blue, other ones as well that will be launched, but this is the one I went home with. So very cute, very squishy. They're launching a completely new yarn, which is always exciting for us fiber art nerds. So this is called One Wool, and it's a 100% wool, and I think their only other 100% wool yarn is Crazy Sexy Wool, which is quite thick. So this is thinner. It's closer to the size of like Alpacino Merino. This is in slate gray. I think that these might be kind of cute together in like a checkered scarf situation. That might be what I make. They also had a multicolor version of their Feeling Good yarn, which is another one of my favorites. I use that yarn from Wool and the Gang a lot to make balaclavas and bonnets. The gauge on that works perfectly with my Big City bonnet and Big City balaclava, if you're looking for some nice cozy yarn for that. I don't have that ball with me because I started using it yesterday. Everyone was making these bandanas together, and I brought it to the Material Girls launch party last night, which we'll talk about in a second as well. But that's very cute. They said they're coming out with a self-stripping mohair, which is like very innovative in the fiber art space. Not a lot of that out there, so that will be out soon as well. So very fun morning with Wool and the Gang. Always fun to like meet other people who I've followed online for a while, and I kind of feel like we're already friends, but then we get to meet and like actually be friends. So that was very cool. Next event of the day was the Material Girls launch party. So ever since the beginning of the year, so this is the third issue now that we've done this, we've done a little sip and stitch to celebrate the launch of each magazine, which is just where everyone brings a project that they're working on to a bar and we sip and stitch, and it's a ball. So everyone got a copy of the latest magazine and a little flash tattoo sheet of temporary flash tattoos that I illustrated with all little Material Girls things like cowgirl boots and bows, and just very fun. So we had those out, we had like bubbles out, everyone got their first drink included, and we tied pink bows around the Corona bottles. So it was very cute. It turned out very cute. It was a bit stressful, like running around for about 45 minutes, an hour before it started, and hopefully when people started coming they didn't realize how much I was sweating. But basically what happened was venue, which was this cool outdoor like beer garden area, and it's all in old shipping containers. They have these old shipping containers stacked on top of each other. It's called Pop Brixton, and then there are different like restaurants and bars and stuff that you can visit in the shipping containers, and there's areas to sit in between. It was raining out, which is no one's fault, and I had been crossing my fingers all week that it wasn't gonna rain, but I kind of was like, it's gonna rain, I know it. And it wasn't just raining, it was like pouring. And there is limited space to like sit underneath awnings there, but I assumed, you know, I have a reservation. Hopefully they, you know, reserve space in the non-rainy areas for like the reservations before they let people like just sit there generally. We showed up and they did not have record of our reservation, which was really frustrating because I had been emailing someone for over a month about like pre-ordering drinks and where are we gonna sit, and like because this was a large reservation, you know, it was like 30 people and everything seemed good on that end, but something hadn't been communicated with whoever I was talking to and the people who were working there that day, and they did not have record of our reservation, and they told us we could sit basically in the rain, and I was like, that's not gonna work, like, well, let's work together here, how can we figure this out? And they like, it was just a shitty situation. They were very nice about it, but it was also quite like frustrating because basically what they told us to do was like go take a seat that's open under the awning, and then as people leave, like claim more area. So it's good that we showed up early enough to do that. Yeah, certainly like not exactly how I wanted it to go. It was still a good vibe. Like I'm very happy with how it went, but just to say that those are some things that sometimes, you know, you're dealing with when you're doing events. You don't quite know what's going to come up, and yeah, so it was a bit of a runaround with that. Of course, everyone who came brought such good vibes and it turned out to be a great night. So the magazine now has been out for a few weeks, I think. So hopefully you're on the email list and you've already seen this, but just a little peek into it. I have to show the cover because I think this is one of the cutest covers that I've done. Yeah, I'm very proud of it. It's not that complicated to do graphic design wise, but I always feel like slay graphic designer when I get it to, you know, go from page to page across the cover like this. And I want to keep doing covers like this because usually I just pick some of my favorite pattern pictures to put on the cover, but I feel like this does a better job of showing, you know, all the different features we have, all the different patterns, like a further vibe, scrappiness that you're going to see if you open the magazine. So quite cute. There are 3 free patterns in this issue and I'll link them all down below. So if you download the magazine, which is a free download, you can see the written versions of the pattern, and I'll also link all of the video tutorials as well. So there's a Material Girls YouTube channel if you like video tutorials. I have been posting since the beginning of the year all the patterns that have come out in the magazine on there, so make sure you're subscribed. I'll link those down below as well. The crochet pattern is the Hothead hairband. This is very beginner friendly. It's kind of like a crown of ruffles kind of vibe. The knitting pattern is the Polly Pocket Pouch, which teaches you how to insert beads into your knitting, and you make these cute little frilly pouches so that you don't lose stuff in your bags. I don't know, I'm like a bags inside my bag girl, so that is what that is about. And then the sewing pattern, which I've shown in these vlogs before as I was like developing it, is the Prom Queen Tool Belt, which I'm so proud of this one. It is so cute. You make custom utility pockets along the length of the belt so you can decide what you want to have fit in yours. There's different attachments, there's frills. Those are the patterns that are inside. There's fun like Y2K games like fiber art mesh. There's an article on the Palestinian origins of feral design, which is often miscredited as being from Scandinavia, which is not true, and there's a little explanation of that there. The Material Girl is so cool. So by Destiny Pinto is this brand and designer who redesigns assistive devices for fashion. So like she wears a compression glove and she's redesigned it to be both functional and a fashion statement. She's made matching ones for her and friends who have different assistive devices. So just very cool, very insightful interview. Lots of fun in here, coloring page, new knit lit pics. I'm very, very proud of this magazine. I feel like I'm hitting my stride. Every time I finish a magazine, obviously I'm proud of it because I just worked really hard on it. But then there's always that kind of anxiety of like, will I be able to pull it off again for another one? And I feel like this is number 9. I think this is number 9, and I'm starting finally to get over that and just be excited to do the next one. Magazine release parties always make me so happy. There's just like a good buzz afterwards, and it's so fun to watch people come and like want to spend a Friday night hanging out and drinking and making fiber art and doing tattoos and just being girls and celebrating together. Material Girls Club, and the craft is very cute today. So we're decorating lighters. All the girly jewel stickers are out, and then everyone has 2 lighters at their spot. Aren't these cute? They're like mini versions of the lighters. So those, and then these are stickers as usual. And then this is Material Girls temporary tattoo. That's why it's backwards. So we have that, and then sponges at each spot. We're gonna fill those up with water if people want to get branded. It's been a crazy Material Girls summer, like with an event nearly every week. Next weekend is one of the only non-Material Girls weekends in the summer. Who knows what Grace and I will get up to. I'll have a break and then come back and just really bring the vibes for the next event, which is going to be a craft party with Awana. So she runs zine workshops in London We've just become like great friends, and we also like both do craft workshops, so we wanted to do one together. We're gonna make fabric zines, so I think you'll see that in the next vlog, but that's in 2 weeks. That'll be the next event, and it's gonna be like a little party. A hotel is hosting us, and they're gonna have like custom drinks. They're letting us like choose the menu, so we're definitely gonna make some like pink glittery fun stuff on the drink menu. This is like classic Material Girls Club day, and then that is the next event coming up. A book review slash book haul, because I have lots of fun things to show today. So all of these books are from Common Threads Press, which Common Threads is one of my favorite publishers. They exclusively publish zines that are all about radical crafting. I built up quite the collection, so I've done a video in the past where I talked about Writes Not Charity, which is great. I'll link my review of that down below. I've recently bought some more, and Laura, who runs Common Threads, kindly sent me some more too. So the collection as it stands is a quilted alphabet. This is just a very sweet little one, and on each page it has a different quilt square that you can make, and it starts with, like the name of it, starts with each letter of the alphabet. The two newest to me are Diasporic Threads, Black Women Fiber and Textiles, Slow Grown Plants, Folklore, and Natural Dyeing. I haven't read either of these yet, but very excited to do so. These two I've recently read and finished, and first of all, these are great sized zines because I get through them usually in like an hour or two, but they're still so jam-packed with just really interesting histories and information. Stitching Freedom, Embroidery, and Incarceration by Isabella Rosner. This goes through a bunch of different stories from people throughout history who have either been incarcerated or put in mental health hospitals, and the fiber art that they made, which is a really interesting point of view to look at in the fiber art space, because I feel like we're often talking about how fiber art is political and communal and, you know, a skill that people use to create joyful things for their families in their home. And there are some ways in which these stories relate to that, and there are also a lot of ways in which those experiences are very, very different. Embroidery that this zine looks at often involves a lot of themes of like rage, isolation. There's a lot of things that relate to politics. What I found super interesting was the use of materials. So obviously, if you are in the institutions that this book is talking about, there's not great access to fabric and thread. These fiber artists were unraveling clothing that they had. They were using their own hair. They're using any materials that they could find in very inventive ways in order to stitch and create really amazing pieces of work. So for example, this piece that's on the cover is an illustration of something that Lorena Bulwer made, and it's all supposedly made out of hospital sheets, threads from unraveled garments, and in real life is 12 feet long. So lots of really amazing examples in here. We've got Many Hands Make a Quilt, Short Histories of Radical Quilting by Jess Bailey, and this goes through quilts throughout history and the radical stories behind how they were created, why they were created. So for example, the first one is about a group of women that was incarcerated on a ship going from England to Tasmania, and they made a quilt during the time they were on the ship and then sent it back to England as a political statement about prison reform. Black Power quilt made by Ruth Clement Bond is in here, and it says there's a possibility that this is where the Black Panther Party's Black Power fist imagery originated on this quilt. The package that Common Threads sent, there's this little print of a quilting bee, so that was very relevant, and what a sweet little picture. I'm a very happy girl with all my zines. Thank you to Common Threads Press just for putting out such amazing stuff. I'll link their website down below so you can give it a look. So coming up next week, I've been throughout the month of July taking videos about every single event that Material Girls has put on and been talking a bit more about the behind the scenes. So I feel like in these vlogs, I kind of like show clips into it, talk a bit about what we're doing, but I often get questions from people that are like, how do you host these things? You know, how much does it cost? How do you get involved? How do you find venues? All sorts of stuff like that. So I'm trying to answer a lot of those questions and show kind of the different events that we do at Material Girls. So you would have seen in this vlog, there was a classic Material Girls club, there was a Material Girls launch party, which are quite different events to put on. Next week there are some more events as well. One of them is a collaboration with another organization, so quite a few different events happening in July. I thought it would be a good time to kind of talk through some of those things, how I make those decisions, how I get involved and put on these clubs, because I am a nerd and want to know people's back end all the time. So hopefully you find that interesting as well. If you do have specific questions, make sure to comment them down below and I will try to answer them in that. After that, we'll be back to our regularly scheduled blog content with book recommendations and projects that I'm working on and events that I'm hosting and all that fun stuff throughout the summer. So I hope you enjoyed today's video. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you next week.